Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. What's up, brother?
How's it going, mate?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. You go
Chilling?
to ICW?
Went to Dar es Salaam actually last second.
Oh, I was at the restaurant too.
You did? Where were you? Oh, you did because you're a celebrity.
Yeah, right. I was in the front.
That's why. MashaAllah. I see how it is. I came pretty late. So I rushed back. I got some Koa House chai. Uh-oh, you're frozen, I think.
Around.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. I'm trying
Okay.
to get it connected to my.
Headphones?
We were there. I promise. I was at Dar es Salaam.
Hey, Dar es Salaam is so big, man. You can miss anyone.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Uh,
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So, no, Bismillah. We'll start in the name of Allah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Oh, thank you. I was listening to the Umar Hasib podcast. Anyways. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulih Nabi al-Kareem. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So I'm excited because I'm joined by my brother Ubaid Hussein. So it might be a shock to some of you that Ubaid is actually on social media. So let's start with that. So why have you not been on social media, and why are you on social media now?
yeah, man, this is like a big culture shock. I feel like an old man. Like I'm putting my glasses down and like looking at everything, like where the buttons are and all that. So it's been an adjustment, but it looks pretty cool. This is literally my first time on Instagram, let alone Instagram Live. Um, Technically, I've been getting help with my friend Najib. He's been the one helping me with this whole Instagram thing. But yeah, I'm still anti-social media. I always told myself that I'd only be on social media if I was trying to like promote something, or if I had a project and I wanted to get it out to the world. Because if I wasn't doing that, then I'd definitely be missing out. So I still don't have like my own profile. I'm not gonna show my like face and have my pictures and selfies up. That's never gonna happen. But I'm enjoying this part of social media. Getting to like push this project I'm working on.
Yeah, so what is the project? So what's the obviously you're logged on as the Small Slave blog. So what's this all about?
Yeah. So first it's been brewing for a while. I've always had thoughts and wrote always notes down on my notepad about things, little practical tips and advice that I could adopt to make myself a better Muslim. Things that related to prayer and charity and fasting. I've always just had mental like thoughts and always wrote them down on paper. And I wanted to get it out to people. I was always hesitant in the beginning to do that because I don't want people to ever think that I think that I'm a sheikh or educated or anything like that. But that was kind of what's been holding me down for a while. But now lately I realized that humbly I just want to share this because it's been helping me. So if it's helping me, then it may help other people. So I decided to start this newsletter that I send out to people who subscribe once a week. And every week I go over like a hadith or a verse of the week, and then share a practical story or a tip that everyone could adopt immediately. So my thought process is just to share bite-sized, digestible tips for all of us to implement right off the bat. Because some of the tips that we hear from sheikhs and other educated people could be really overwhelming and grand and may take years to implement. But I hope that with the newsletter that I started, maybe someone could take one thing that beneficial from the article and they could adopt right away in their lives. And that could make them maybe 1% better of a Muslim.
So what's the difference then for the newsletter versus like the Instagram, for example?
So I like the idea of reading. I wanted to bring that back. It's funny because I'm not a reader technically, but I do like to read articles and like short snippets. And I was talking to one of my friends who educated me about how the newsletter industry is actually blowing up. And I was shocked. And I was like, people still read emails? Like I thought social vlogging and videos and these, yeah, reels are what's popping now. But he mentioned that people are craving to start reading again and reading short snippets because people enjoy Twitter, and that's a lot of reading, right? There's short snippets there. So he was saying that a newsletter is a good way to get to people, and it's a unique way. And I've been thinking like I'm not sure about you. I think you and I discussed this. We're on our emails a lot, actually, both for work and personal lives, right? Our emails are always being sent. And it's a more like intimate way to approach people. Like, I don't want to be like my face all over people's Instagrams and like promoting something, and I'm not the most articulate person in the world either. So I wanted to start this newsletter because it's like a more intimate way to reach out to people, and it's documented so people can refer back if they want to refer back to it again. So I like the idea of people reading. It's a more digestible way to gather information, in my opinion.
So then how does the Instagram play with the newsletter or the blog then? So you sign up for the newsletter, you enter your email, you'll get a weekly email. But so everybody here is going to obviously see this on Instagram. So the question is going to be, how does that relate to Instagram and, your page?
For sure. So I would hope that the Instagram could be not completely replace the newsletter, but just help promote it and give people a snippet of what they could expect with the newsletter. I think that so one of my friends is helping me manage the social media. I think he's doing like an amazing job. Just right when you go off the bat on the Instagram profile, I think that the pictures look really nice. The captions are really, really good and really approachable. So I would hope that this Instagram could allow people just to get through the door, see what it's about, and then subscribe to the email for more information.
So that's the main goal. The main goal is to get subscribers and have people enter their emails and get this weekly newsletter. So give me an example. What's an example of some of these tips that you're giving that might be different than, like you said, that the sheikhs are giving, or something that might feel overwhelming? So can you give me an example of some of the tips that you've already written about, or maybe some of the tips that are in the pipeline?
For sure. So one tip that I hear often, right? A lot of us ask sheikhs, what's one way to make ourselves better during prayer? What's one way to have more khushu or more quality in our prayer? And the typical answer that we receive is to learn Arabic. Like, just learn Arabic. That's such a big goal. That's really hard for people to just dump. It's obviously legitimate advice. We should all try our best to learn Arabic. But learning Arabic, it's like months and takes years to learn, right? So that tells me that there is like a long project for me to have khushu in prayer. But that's not the case. There's little things we could do right now, this minute, to make our prayer more of quality. So, for example, in response to someone asking me, for example, if they ever did, how could you make yourself more focused in prayer? I'd say it starts even before that with wudu. So one thing that I wrote about is to make sure that you slow down the flow of the water when you make wudu. When you're turning on the faucet for wudu, I think I stole it from you actually. When you make wudu, slow down the flow of the water so it's quiet and slow. This forces you to mentally slow down, take a break, think about what you're doing, because wudu is actually a form of ibadah itself. So if you slow down that water, make it quiet, slow it down, it'll make you more mentally in tune of what you're about to do. Because it all starts even before the salah. If you want khushu in prayer, you have to prepare before it. So that's one example. I have a few other ones that people could check out. We could cover. One thing is I liked is before you even make wudu, charge your phone and keep your phone on charge, right? Because it does a couple things. One, it allows you to kind of disengage from the dunya and to start engaging with wudu. And then when you approach prayer, your phone's on charge, so you want to kill time anyway, so your phone has more battery in it, right? So since you want to kill more time on your phone, you may want to slow down with your rak'ah a little bit more. Maybe make a little bit more dhikr. Maybe make a little bit more dua. Maybe. And that few extra seconds of worship, one, allows you to have your phone charge more, and also allows you to be more focused too. So those are just little tidbits that I hope people could implement. They're very digestible. They're not heavy at all. But this is what's been helping me, so I'm sure it might help other people as well.
I really like the tips, like even when it comes to like reading, if you want to read more, right? Like you want to keep a book on your nightstand, you want to carry a book around with you, you want to have multiple books that you're reading, and kind of using those same principles, you can add that to being a productive Muslim, right? A productive Muslim in the sense that identifying those actions that give you leverage, right? So for example, alhamdulillah, like going to the masjid for Isha. That's something where like just making it a point that one extra day a week going to Isha will, count as half of a night of prayer, right? So implementing those tiny things like that, and like you mentioned, the slowing down in wudu and things like that. So how can this relate then to productivity, not only as a Muslim, but in other realms? Are you going to be diving into those things as well, like work productivity or life productivity, or is this really going to be focused on, Islamic and making sure that you can get extra deeds?
Yeah, I've thought about that. Maybe one day exploring out and talking about like family productivity and work productivity, but it's not like a passion of mine or things that I've been writing down, like trying to get better with Islam, with the Deen. I've been taking notes on for years now, and taking mental notes and both like actual physical notes. So maybe one day if like people start to take me seriously and then they want me to expand to think about talking about other things, I may expand on that. But for now, I like this lane that I'm in to talk about Islam and the Deen because like the advice that I receive oftentimes are very grand and really big, but it doesn't have to be that big for you to become a better Muslim. You don't have to be a full out scholar and a sheikh and go across or go overseas to learn about the Deen. You could just make little tidbit changes in your life right now, little small change in habits right now for you to be better.
So you're talking
So that's
about
what I like
action
right now.
based, right? Like increasing your actions, increasing your spirituality. Is that like the types of tips that you're concentrating on?
Yeah, pretty much like really quick, easy changes you can make on a daily basis. Like both maybe with your mentality as well when it comes to the Deen, because one thing that I want to push as well is I want us to have a more competitive approach towards getting better with Islam. Like we all have that approach to make sure that you study hard and you get good grades. You work out hard and you get jacked or you get strong and you get better at sports. But for some reason with the Deen, sometimes we are more casual with our approach. We think Allah's gonna forgive us. Allah's the most merciful. He'll be fine. We'll get there. I'm on my own spiritual journey. Like no, screw that. Like try your best to become the best right now. Work hard. It's gonna be uncomfortable on this journey to become a better Muslim, but embrace it. We embrace it with the education. We embrace it with physical activity. Why don't we do the same with the Deen?
So can
So
you
I
give me
hope that I could push
an
that.
example, like practically, like how can a group of friends like encourage each other to compete? How do you draw the line between showing off and, encouraging each other to get better in Islam?
Yeah, the whole thing about showing off, that was something that stopped me from doing this newsletter for a long time. I thought that if I were to give people advice or tips, that people may think that I'm showing off and making me seem that I'm a good Muslim when I'm like really have much more to improve on. But every great thing in life starts with people thinking that they're good at it, like, right? It has to start with some confidence anyway, right? So you like basically back in Muhammad Sallallahu times, right? He would publicly ask people and his Sahabas who donated today, like who attended the janazah today. And he expects people to raise up and give the answer right away because maybe that would inspire someone else. So we don't have to be so hush hush about what we do to become better Muslims. So, like it's been encouraged since day one to be proud of what you're doing. Don't be cocky about it. Maybe just keep it to a short limit when you explain these things, but don't be afraid to encourage other people and push other people gently, especially people that you are cool with and they could take some tough criticism. Don't be afraid to call them out like, yo, get out, let's pray. Like, be more confrontational about it. We're too soft nowadays. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
And that's a good point. I think, when it comes to like fara'id, for example, like no one's saying like we're gonna, talk about the hajjud and I did the hajjud last night. No, what we're talking about really is the fara'id, right? Like praying and praying on time and praying with khushu and having Quran in your life and recitation in your life and going to the masjid, like things like this isn't about showing off. It's funny because now you're considered religious if you do the 5 pillars,
Yeah.
right? Whereas before that's just the entry level. And so what you're saying is that we need to change that standard, right? Change the standard that the expectation of your friends should be that, hey, we need to be on these pillars, and beyond that, fine, do what you got to do. But at the very least, let's make sure that we are fulfilling just the basics.
Exactly. I'm glad you pointed that out because someone praying 5 times a day does not mean they're religious. They're doing their job. They're doing their job as a Muslim. They sign up for this. You're literally doing the bare minimum. But nowadays, unfortunately, we come to a point that someone praying 5 times a day, they're considered like a sheikh now or religious. SubhanAllah, like that's a limit. That's the standard we're living at now. So I want to level up our standards now. So I hope that this newsletter, like, it's very simple tips that I want to share, but I hope this will allow people to think about how serious it is, how easy it is to become a better Muslim. It's not as challenging or as big of a goal as we expect it to be. It's really not.
So we have Zafar Bassett who's on the line. and he is requesting to join. So I'm going to put him in the
Sure.
live video, and let's see what Mr. Bassett has to say.
Zafar Bhai.
1 sec. Okay. So we have my roommate Zafar Bassett. Alhamdulillah, he's from the north side. He's the owner of Smash Bros. And so he, inshallah, will be jumping on this call. All right. But as he's trying to join here, so what are some other tips? I know you said you've been writing some tips for years and years. So can you give us some more? I know you gave the slow down the wudu, but give us some more tips, right? Like the people who are joining here, this is kind of their sneak peek into your blog as you're getting off the ground. So yeah, share some more tidbits with us.
Yeah. One thing that I haven't wrote about yet, but I plan to, is the idea of us learning Arabic. Obviously, everyone agrees that that's like one of the best ways to get more khushu in prayer, right? But learning the whole Arabic language is not going to be an easy task. Everyone understands that it's a complex language, but there are things that we can learn right now and things that we can memorize right now to make ourselves better Muslims, better in our khushu. One thing out of many things is learning like what Allahu Akbar means, learning what Sami Allahu liman hamidah means, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. If you just learn these little tidbits too, that'll give you more of an engagement. Another thing too is with the Quran, right? We're always told to memorize the Quran and learn about it. And this is very important. Of course, we should all strive to do that. But one thing that we could do right off the bat now is at least try to memorize the common phrases that are used in the Quran. Like samawati wal ard, heavens and the earth, right? There are so many common phrases that are used in the Quran. If we just at least try to memorize those easy, quick phrases, that'll give you context for what the whole ayah is talking about. So just learning those quick things. I wanna, like, when I do this article, I wanna like write down, like have like a guide, like a table where I mention all the common phrases on one side and then the translation of the other, so people could just refer to that before they pray namaz or something like that. Just learn these quick phrases, which is very easy. Those little couple words are so packed and dense with meaning, that'll give you some context for the whole ayah. So I hope to do that article, and I have so many random other ones as well. Things about what to visualize when you pray. Like there's a story with Hassan al-Basri I've done recently from Sheikh Amr, actually. Is someone asked Hassan al-Basri, what do you envision when you pray namaz? Very, very good question, right? And I don't remember everything word for word, but he mentioned that when I pray namaz, I envision Jannah on my right, Jahannam on my left, the Kaaba in front of me looking straight up, and then the Sirat above me on the Day of Judgment. So these are actual things we can visualize when we pray. Like again, people, when you say, what do you want? How do you have more khushu in prayer? We always say, learn Arabic. But sometimes, me personally, I'm a visual guy. Like I need to see something for me to pay attention to it. Like when a speaker is speaking, I have to see him on the podium for me to really pay attention, right? Similar to how I'm going to be with prayer. Now that I learned about this, I'm going to try to envision the Kaaba in front of me, Jannah on the right, Jahannam on the left, and the Sirat that I have to cross in the Day of Judgment. That visual will maybe give me a little bit of a better chance for me to have more quality in my prayer.
When it comes to like productivity as a Muslim, so like, do you have a daily ibadah schedule that you implement, or certain things that you try to accomplish on a daily basis? And if so, like, what does that look like?
So I have milestones that I want to accomplish in the day. I am not too good at doing it at a certain time in the day. Like for after Dhuhr, I have to make sure I do this. But I do have like rough milestones that I feel that I had a productive day if I finish it. Especially now that Qasim was born, my son. My whole idea of a routine is completely flipped. So there's no chance of me maintaining a schedule anytime soon. But there are certain things that I feel like I have to complete. Like there's no way that any of us should go a day without saying salawat once. Like that should not happen. Like there's literally no excuse for that. Like going the whole day without sending salutations upon Rasulullah should not happen. Like besides prayer, outside of prayer, right? So like maybe like set whatever standards you have. Another tip that you reminded me of is a lot of times we're told to do dhikr throughout the day, which is really easy to do. But me personally, I don't do as much as I should. So I have to find what times in the day where it's most likely that I could do it, that I'll think to do it, right? And I thought maybe one instance is where I commute, or if I'm going to work, or driving somewhere. but a lot of us are work from home, so that may not happen. We're so busy during our home life that we may not even think to do dhikr. So maybe another way to do it is like if you cross a certain, like if you are walking in a parking lot and you're walking to the store after you park your car, you're in the parking lot and you're walking towards the store. That walk to the store, you're not going to be on your phone because you're walking. You want to watch out where you are, so your phone won't distract you. Maybe that time when you're walking from place to place is a time where you can make a dhikr. Because I don't know about you, when I go on a car and I know that I have like a 30-minute drive ahead of me, I'm looking forward to a podcast or a video to watch, right? I hardly, unfortunately, think about making dhikr. But one time where I could do it is when I park the car after I finish the podcast and I'm walking towards my house or someone else's house or a store. That little 2-minute walk, I could squeeze in some of the dhikr right there. So just find pockets in the day where you could squeeze these in.
I don't know. Yeah, when it comes to like the daily ibadah schedule, obviously I know, the 5 daily prayers are obviously there. I personally, I try to make at least one salah in Jamaat at the masjid per day, and usually that's going to be Isha, right? So making sure that you're praying Isha in Jamaat at your local masjid, inshallah. I do try to finish like a certain portion of the Quran recitation every single day. After Fajr, for example, I make sure to do, let's say, 100 astaghfar, 100 salawat, and then after Isha as well, to do 100 salawat and 100 astaghfar, right? So like these like simple goals, and maybe for somebody, it's starting with 10 and 10, right? After Fajr and 10 and 10 after Isha, and building up that dhikr, or making sure that instead of only going to Jummah once a week, that you make sure that you go to the masjid at least one more time per week. So like these little trackers or these little goals that you set for yourself, I think are very helpful. And I remember when I first, was trying to get better at this, I actually made like a habit checklist, right? And basically on my fridge, I had like a checklist of all 5 daily prayers, of the adhkar I wanted to do, different masjid, and so like I would like color it in, and that was really motivating. I literally did that every day for 2 years. So like that really helped me, like a habit checklist really helped me, implement these types of things in my life.
For sure. So what would be your response if someone hears this from you and they say like, I don't have that much time on my day. I have kids, I have work, I have a business to run. Like, how could I possibly squeeze in this time to make extra dhikr and do extra sunnahs and read more? What would be your response to that?
So my response is that at the end of the day, obviously you should concentrate on your fara'id, right? Make sure that your 5 daily prayers are intact, right? So I think that's the first goal. So even if you're at 0, okay, then start with 1 prayer a day, and then 2 and 3. Like start with your like fara'id. I think after the fara'id, the next thing that I think really helps is, and they say it's not about adding things in your life most of the time. Most of the time it's about subtracting things from your life, right? So I would say that once you hit the fara'id, then start concentrating on taking away things from your life, right, that are causing you to stray. And then I think along with that is a short, small implementation of some type of dhikr routine, right? So like I said, maybe 200, I know 200 sounds a lot, fine, let's just say 10 and 10. 10 salawat and 10 astaghfar every single day, and build upon that. And honestly, the friends of Allah are not necessarily the ones who are doing all this nafil. The friends of Allah are usually the ones who fulfill the fara'id and stay away from sin,
Right. Yeah. No, that reminds me of a talk. I think I mentioned this in our video a while ago, one of our videos, where Sheikh Hussein mentioned this, where he mentioned that back in the day, Sahabas and people in the past were trying to find ways to do good deeds. Like there wasn't obviously social media or technology, so it was hard for them to even find opportunities to do good deeds. Now, with all that we have access to and social media and technology and everything so easy, it's hard for us to avoid bad deeds. That's the struggle that you and I are in, that our generation is in. So sometimes literally cutting off some of your bad habits is slowly transforming, is going to replace it with ibadah eventually, right? So having a more minimalistic approach, like adopting all these practices sometimes of trying to encourage good habits and do good habits, obviously it's really helpful, but sometimes maybe some of us are so deep down in like sinning and bad habits that we should first work on removing our bad habits, because that's the struggle that our generation's in, as Sheikh Hussein mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I try to do, like I want to have a really like elementary approach with my newsletter, and for now it's just once a week. I chose Thursdays to do it because I hope that a lot of the tips that I portray to everyone, people could adopt for Jummah the next day. Because and also another reason why I chose Thursday was someone educated me, letting me know that Mondays and Thursdays are the days where your good deeds are presented to Allah. So if you could do your good deeds on the Thursday, one, your deeds are presented in a better way on Thursday, plus you're prepared for the next day, Friday, which is the most important day of the week too. So that's why I chose Thursdays too. And sorry to rant on this, but a few people asked me why I chose my name, Small Slave. That's a really like weird name, and I had a couple reasons. So I was trying to think of a name for this for a long time. I wanted a self-improvement blog for Muslims, but I wanted to have a name that would capture people, and people would think, why would I choose this name? Those are usually the names that people click on, right? Yeah. So I was trying to brainstorm names, trying to figure out things, and I stumbled upon my own name, right, Ubaid. And the meaning of Ubaid itself is small slave, right? It's considered a small slave. And I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? We're all considered technically Ubaids. We're all considered small slaves, especially in the eyes of Allah. Right? We're all small slaves of Allah. So I was thinking the name small slave gives us the indication that we have plenty to improve on. We have much more room to improve because we become a big slave. So I wanted that, and obviously it's personal to me because my name is Ubaid, and I think we're all considered Ubaids. Like, we're all small slaves in the eyes of Allah. We have plenty of room for improvement, plenty of room to become bigger, and I hope with these little small articles that we could become eventually big slaves, inshallah.
Inshallah. So as we wrap up here, we talked about, mashallah, I actually do enjoy every Thursday getting your email and, reading the blog. So I do hope that, inshallah, everybody who's listening, that they, go to, what's the URL?
Smallslave.com.
Yeah, smallslave.com. Enter your email, sign up for the newsletter. It's just one email per week, right? No spam, no nothing, just one email per week. Follow, Small Slave on Instagram. And so can you give us a sneak peek as to what this Thursdays is going to be, or do you have I don't know if you want to ruin the surprise or not, but I would love to end with maybe what you're going to release or what's in the pipeline at the very least, inshallah.
For sure. Yeah. So literally, I have a lot in the pipeline, but I'm trying to think of like a more methodical way to like plan out what topics I have. But one thing I wanted to talk about is creating like self competitions or self games. So one thing that I learned that I may do for this week, I thought it was really cool. So when we're all driving and sometimes we pay for things in cash, right? And when we pay for things for cash, obviously we get cash and change in return, right? And sometimes that change just gets thrown into our change compartment in the car or in our cup holder, and we don't utilize that enough. So the game that I have that I play myself, and I hope other people may adopt, is try to empty out that coin, that change compartment, or all those change by going to the masjid. So every time you go to the masjid, donate that 1 penny, just 1 penny, when you go to the masjid. And your game or your goal is to empty out that change compartment. And the only way you can empty it out is every time you go to the masjid.
No, that's fine.
So this way, your change is getting utilized because every cent is worth something. And it's allowing you to go to the masjid. And it allows you to do sadaqah every day. And sadaqah, that's another thing I want to talk about, is sadaqah, we have the limited mentality thinking that sadaqah is only done with money. It's done financially. But that's definitely not the case, right? Even like smiling is a form of charity. So that's another thing I want to talk about in the articles as well, is that stop limiting your brain to only thinking sadaqah is done financially. There's other ways that you could do sadaqah. Like when I'm done here, and just my wife and my son are here, I could do sadaqah for them right now without giving them a dime. So I want us to expand our mentality and not just think sadaqah is done financially, it's done in many other ways.
Any final words, bro?
No, that's basically all I had. Thank you for allowing me to talk about this, man. Because something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm still like hesitant because I don't want people thinking that I'm smart or I'm religious or anything like that. It's something that is like a passion of mine. No one's getting paid here. I'm literally just doing it for the sake of writing. sake of documenting my own advice, and I hope that it challenges me to practice what I preach too. Because if I'm telling you guys to do this tip and this article and I'm doing it, I personally feel like a hypocrite. So this is also challenging me to make sure I step up my game as well.
I mean, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to implement these habits into our life, make us people of consistency, make us people of spirituality and presence, and allow us to transform our lives and other lives, inshallah. So with that, inshallah, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, brother.
Of course, bro. Nice to see you, inshallah.
Okay, brother. See you soon.